So the questions are these. How can we really activate the best of the private sector to meet the challenges of the real world? Is there a way to accelerate my career that doesn't involve boring online or classroom courses? And can I really impact people in the developing world with the skills that I have? Can I finally feel proud of what I know? Those are the questions, and this podcast will give you the answers. My name is Philippa White, and this is TIE Unearthed. Keep listening, and you can follow us on our journey as we show you how we're connecting the private sector with the social sector to make change. Hello everyone, Philippa White here, and welcome to episode 13 of TIE's podcast. And today I'm really excited to be speaking with Janice McNamara. Now, Janice is a specialist in leadership and teams. She's a facilitator, coach, mentor, trainer, and mediator, and she's TIE's international development trainer and leadership or executive coach. Now, today we will be talking about how changing perspectives can unearth your potential. So, hello, Janice. It's great to have you here with us.
Hi, thank you. I'm really looking forward to having our conversation. Thanks, Philippa.
Me too. Now, just to put this podcast into perspective for our listeners, I just wanted people to understand. Since 2007, TIE has been connecting the private sector with the social sector to make change. And we've been doing this by linking professionals with social initiatives across the globe, creating a unique catalyst for flexing their leadership muscles in new ways. Basically, by stepping out of their comfort zones and working in completely unfamiliar environments, both culturally and socially, we're able to unleash the full potential of leaders through self-discovery and experiential learning. And basically, the result of being pushed out of their comfort zones in this way, people learn how to better work in diverse situations, develop their cultural intelligence, their self-awareness, conscious leadership, and improved flexibility. Basically, all skills that are needed to better lead in today's world. But basically, they need to be prepared properly beforehand. And well, that's where you come in. You're a big part of this process to make it a success. You're there to help prepare people for the experience through international development training. And you're also there to help channel the learnings through the executive coaching. And today I just wanted to talk about how you for experiences like this. You've been doing it for a very long time. How you help them unlock their potential, what tools and processes you use that perhaps even our listeners could perhaps use in their daily lives. So that basically brings me to my first question is, perhaps you can tell us about what you do, why you do it, what was the journey for you to get to where you are today, the impacts you've seen. Over to you.
Great, thanks, Philippa. So I'll touch on the what and the why first. So what I do is develop sort of bespoke support and practical solutions for leaders, teams and organizations. So I really try and help them address the challenges that relate to individual flexibility, resilience, creativity, and the need to be positive and have strong relationships in the workplace. And obviously COVID is having a big impact on leaders and teams at the moment. So over the years, I've worked with a whole range of different organizations to sort of co-create solutions and to work with them to deliver that. And as you say, there's a range of different approaches that I have. And I've been really, really fortunate, having worked for myself over such a long period of time now. I've worked from politicians, executives, and across sectors, manufacturing, government departments, as well as working globally, whether that's with the development sector like yourself or with global conservation. So I feel really privileged with the range of organizations I've worked with. And I guess the reason why is I just love it. I'm in my flow and I can think of nothing else that I'd actually want to do more. It's amazing because I'm sat here in my lovely garden office in Manchester in the UK, and yet I can work with diverse organisations across the world. And when you'd asked me this question before this session, I was thinking about, well, what is it that has really motivated me to do this? And actually it was quite an interesting thing in terms of me reflecting upon this, because my real drive for it is really helping individuals to be at their best. And that can sound a bit corny, but actually it's really true. Because when I was, and it's hard to admit this, but actually when I was at school, it's a strange thing to reveal, but I actually found reading and writing a real challenge. And the thought of going to the library could make me feel slightly sick at the thought of all the books, the words and the letters that you'd have to deal with. And despite that challenge, I achieved my degree and postgraduate courses, and I've held senior leadership roles. But it was only much later, actually when I was 45, I had a dyslexia assessment. And the reason for that was that I was working with a senior leader who appeared really overwhelmed because she was having to deal with a lot of policy documents when she stepped into the job. And I could really connect with how she was feeling. So I thought that I need to understand myself to be able to help others. And so going through the assessment was really hard because I had to come to terms with understanding how deep an impact it had had for me and the impact it had had on my self-esteem. But when you ask about why, in a way that experience is now a bedrock for me, because I feel I can connect with the vulnerabilities that leaders and teams have. And I really want to help those individuals build resilience and be the best they can be. So it's really driven from a sort of personal passion and commitment that I have.
That's amazing. Yeah. And I can imagine, just being able to relate to, you feeling vulnerable and various people from various different levels and backgrounds and roles, and obviously the types of, through TIE, for example, people being completely out of their comfort zone. Through VSO, I guess you worked with VSO, didn't you? So having politicians being based in very foreign places and suddenly, normally being in control and then feeling vulnerable, I can imagine being able to relate on how important that is.
And it's incredible amongst that sort of level of individuals, how often they'll refer to imposter syndrome and how they're not sure whether they should be in that place. And individuals in very, very senior roles feeling that. So it's important for me to hold on to that empathy and to connect with that.
Yeah, really special to hear that. Now, we've been working together for a while now, almost 10 years. And we've been through a lot, especially this year. It's been pretty full on. But tell me, I'd just love to know, why did you start working with TIE? Just what's that story? What inspired you, I guess, about what we do? And
lovely, thank you. And it is and continues to be a real pleasure to work with you, Philippa. So it's nice to have the opportunity to give that context, really. And as you mentioned earlier on, my first career was in arts and culture. And I had an incredible opportunity in my 30s to work in Namibia. And I went on a 2-year contract, but stayed for 3 years, and supporting, of all things, museum development just 7 years after independence from South Africa. And to me, museum is all about telling stories. Whose story? What story are you going to tell, and how are you going to tell it? So this was a massive practical and emotional challenge for me when this newly formed country that was still scarred by apartheid and the struggle for independence. It was an extraordinary time to be there, traveling alone and working with and bringing together different diverse communities. So then on my return to the UK, I became a lead trainer for VSO. And at that time, individuals were going on 2-year placements. So they were leaving their home, their family. And this was before mobile phones. You really were stepping out there. And the professionals were hugely experienced, from teachers, doctors, engineers, government officers, a huge array, and going off to, at that time, 74 different countries that we were working with. And the training was, one, to ensure that they were committed for 2 years, that they weren't going to get there and just come back again, but also to encourage them to develop that self-awareness, to build the resilience to adapt to that new country and culture. And really, really importantly, to develop facilitation skills and to ensure that they weren't going in with an arrogance that they were going to fix and save somebody else's. They're going to bring in an external solution, but was about developing facilitation skills. So they really co-created a solution and worked with people rather than doing to them, because the history of development really shows how negative that approach can be. And I can't quite believe that over the time that I worked with them, which was about 17 years, I'm told by then that was about 1,700 volunteers that I worked with during that time. And that included politicians. We had a whole programme of politicians from London, Scotland, south of Ireland, in addition to training VSO local and international staff. And bringing them together from all of those different countries was amazing. So when I was introduced to you, Philippa, I was really inspired about the Thai program, and that I felt a real synergy with where I'd been and what I'd been doing with the work that you were developing.
God, well, it is just so reciprocated. I can't tell you how honored I am to have you involved for so long, and just listening to you talk about, just to think that 1,700 people, you managed to help them understand the importance of this messaging, which is, don't do two people, work with them. Just that is so important. And, when I think about when I started, when I set up Thai, and I never wanted it to be, the North coming to save the South, or this very sort of unbalanced sort of saviors coming over. And it's always, the whole goal has always been a win-win. Very, you're going to learn stuff, we're going to learn stuff too. Let's, roll our sleeves up, get stuck in, and together find solutions. And it's going to be a learning experience for everyone. And it's just listening to you say, I knew all of this, and I love the fact that you, that phrase, don't do two people, work with them, is something that I hear as feedback from so many people who go on Thai. But just to think that, gosh, you've been at 1,700 people, is a lot of people, and that's a huge impact of how to do things in a different way and how to approach development work in a different way. I think it's so important. And I am so inspired by you. Every time I watch your training or hear, quotes or the way that you respond to things, I just, oh God, more people need this in their lives. And you inspire so many people. We obviously just finished one of our Thai Accelerator placements. And when I spoke to the team after they had done their development training, which is actually what we're going to get into next, talking about, and they said, God, why more people need to learn this? I didn't learn this in school. I didn't learn this in university. Where are people supposed to get this information? It's like, Janice.
I don't know about that. I think one of the things that thank you for that. I think one of the things that really, as well, during that time, and to continue as a lead VSO trainer, you had to keep topping up your international experience. So during that time, I was fortunate to deliver the training in other recruitment bases for them, which was in the Netherlands and Canada, but also did short-term placements in the China office and the Pakistan office. So that was great, because that really kept refreshing me and challenging me in how I approach things.
Yeah. I want to talk about the development training, just because, as I say, I love it. And obviously Evelyn, who maybe is going to be listening to this. So big shout out to Evelyn, because she was, the first person that kind of got this going. And then obviously you are now doing it as well. But this program that was developed, the purpose obviously is to help prepare people for their experience by helping them to step out of the private sector and into international development. So by getting them learning things they never learned before about the world, seeing things from a completely different perspective, learning about development, the timeline of development, why development exists, power, the players in development, colonialization, what does that look like today? And, and so much more. And you obviously run this training for us and have done, as I say, for almost 10 years now. And the goal is to provide people with the tools, like you've said, to thrive in a completely unknown and different world. And I'd love you to just, talk about what you do to help prepare people for experiences like this, both with Thai, but obviously what you did with VSO, for example, but also what why this type of learning and transition is so important. And I don't know, perhaps you can share some of the tools you use that people can use if they're about to embark on something similar. Maybe some of the quotes, the Anais Nin quote is such a lovely one. And just, if you could just bring to life this, because I get inspired every time I hear it.
Okay. So first of all, I want to talk a little bit about leadership, really, because to me, leadership development starts with yourself and understanding yourself and knowing your strengths and weaknesses and having a self-perception about the skills that you need to engage and motivate others. And I think this is really not easy to do. The leadership program has a real focus. Some leadership programs have a focus on sort of management theory and models, which are great, but the case studies are maybe theoretical and more without that really practical experience. And the thing that I think is great in terms of the Thai training and the whole Thai experience is that there's an opportunity for transformational change where an individual can really discover and build on their own set of skills and capabilities and really building qualities around self-reflection and also building that self-confidence and resilience. So the learning needs to be really relevant and meaningful so that we can really be an effective leader and to be continually open and evolving. So I think what's great about the Thai experience is the fact that the organisation is a completely new organisation to you and in a very different part of the world. So that involves a real challenge. And now working with the program virtually, I still feel it's hugely experiential and really engaging with that organisation. So it's sort of proven that through that experience, it's the learning is much more powerful and it helps the individual really change in a way that's sustainable rather than just slipping back into old habits, really. And I think part of that is very much around the diversity of the organisations as well, Philippa, and how as a leader we have to adapt to that. Because it's not only what we do, quite often as leaders we're thinking about what's the vision, what's the strategy, how are we going to put this into place. But I think the thing around Thai is really considering about how we work and how we work with that organisation. And like you say, stepping from the private sector into social enterprise is one cultural step and where there's a huge change there. Looking at the fact that you're working with a different country, a different culture, language, all of those really bring that rich diversity. And so the aim of the training is also to deepen the individual's understanding of that international development world and the processes that have an impact on how people, nations and individuals really evolve and the impact on the organisation that you're working with. So we give some historic context and also we introduce aspects around cultural awareness. And as you were saying, the quote around, we see the world as how we are rather than how the reality of it really, because we have filters and those filters are there because of our own experience. That can be a positive thing in we bring our experience to things, but actually it's really opening our eyes in a new way. And I'd like to give some examples from an experience I recently had, if that's all right, Philippa.
Yeah, please. I love it. Yeah.
So for me, I've had an experience, and I was so fortunate just before COVID and lockdown. I took part as a delegate in what was actually sadly the final year's programme for CSC leaders, which was established by Prince Philip over 50 years ago. And that's a leadership programme for senior leaders across the world. And they are invited to take part in the programme. And there was actually 70 of us taking part, as I say, before lockdown. And we had the amazing opportunity of visiting social enterprises and private companies who had community initiatives in London, Manchester and Delhi. So it was great for me because it was a few years since I'd done international work myself. So as a group of individuals who have senior leadership experience, we were invited to visit these different organisations and then put together proposals that were going to be put forward the successful package, if you like, was going to be put forward to the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting coming up actually this year. And there was a huge challenge because they broke us into groups, these 70 people, and I was in a group of about 12 individuals. And we had a finite, very short amount of time to co-create an initiative and to present that to a professional panel, which included Princess Anne. So it was an interesting opportunity.
Bit of pressure.
And within the heat was on because within my team, so in the team, there was someone from Mexico, India, Bangladesh. I was trying to remember all these. Pakistan, Portugal, Egypt, Australia, and Nigeria. So that was the group of us pulled together with the range of not only our countries and cultural contexts, but our personalities, leadership styles, professional expertise and perspective. It was hugely diverse. And so we were under this pressure, and initially there was a huge amount of enthusiasm, but it was interesting during the afternoon that we were working, I could start to see that enthusiasm starting to dissipate as understandably sort of extrovert, more heroic leaders were taking the frame and quite rightly were sort of trying to help move us forward. But as a consequence, we were not maximising on the diversity and knowledge within the group and different viewpoints as individuals started to step back. And it was clear at the end of that day, despite the fact that we were going to deliver this presentation by noon the next day, that we were going in a circle. We weren't getting very far. And that night, Philippa, I did not sleep. I tossed and turned and felt really uncomfortable because I knew that everyone in that group were desperate to be at their best, to really shine and to really be able to be heard and contribute. So it was interesting. All of the things that we've covered in the TIE program became very real for me. Because by the time I woke up in the morning, I didn't wake up. I got out of my bed at 5 o'clock. And
just got out of bed?
Where we were, having tossed and turned. So some of the things I started to think about, well, what as a leader within my role within this group, I felt I'd actually been quite passive and observed what had gone on the day before. And I thought it's time for me now to really draw on these facilitation skills that I talk about so much, and I need to use them. And I was incredibly nervous about it, but I did some prep in terms of just preparing some blank schedules that we actually had something to look at, organising the space that we were in, and looking back at the protocols that the conference had actually put to us at the start. So when everyone joined the group, I asked their permission. I just said, I don't know how you're all feeling, but this is how I'm feeling at the moment, and I want us all to shine. And by trade, I'm a facilitator, and I would love to support you with this. And there was almost a sigh of relief within the room. So when you were saying about takeaways, some of the things that within that group was around looking back to the agreement of how are we going to work together? Let's just talk about how we worked yesterday and let's listen to understand, because people had so many ideas, they were just laying them on top of each other. So this thing of listening to understand was really key in terms of scheduling the time, both the prep and the delivery, and then identifying the skills and expertise that we had within the group and acknowledging those range of expertise, but also styles that some were visionary, some were analytical, some had nurturing skills. Yeah. So we had to do that incredibly quickly, but to really acknowledge that within the group. So we divided into sub-teams. All of the teams were expected to present, and so we supported individuals who were maybe not so confident to present in such a forum, and created checklist in terms of timing, how we were going to move forward with this. And recently, so we presented, and actually I sat in the audience and sort of was there as like the motivator in the crowd, if you like, and we were pleased, and the group were really pleased in how they presented. And it was only recently when I was actually updating my LinkedIn profile and I was looking for things that I would connect into that. And I came across a video by Oysa Nicholson, who was actually one of the people in the group. And she's a CD for the Palladium organisation in Nigeria. And she'd put forward this video describing how she was in the group and describing from her perspective how it worked. And I was hugely appreciative of that, because she described how someone stepped up and actually demonstrated a term that's now, it's interesting, being talked of more often as servant leader. So I wasn't thinking of that at the time, but how could I help others step up and be the best they could be? But actually, in the moment, you didn't see me. I didn't present. I wasn't there. And that wasn't the issue for me. My issue was that I wanted them to stand up and be the best they could be. So it was lovely to get her acknowledgement that actually you can't see me, but I played that role in really supporting them the best. So it was a huge challenge, Philippa, and honestly I felt incredibly nervous about it, but it was really good for me to have that challenge, because in a way it's all very well to enable others in terms of training and delivery, but you need to come back and again challenge yourself and be put in that vulnerable place.
Totally.
So
and just listening to you talk, it just makes me think of our coaching, which you also, you are you're an executive coach as well. And when we think of, why do we need to have that? And it's just listening to you talk about the experience of working with that diverse group of people in that situation, what happened as a result, and then actually how you have then channeled that into your work. What were those learnings? Okay, God, I really shone here. This is an area that I really actually enjoy. And I mean, you've been doing it forever, but the thing is you got to not only use the skills that you have, but also channel that experience, and you still reflect on it, as you say, like now. And I think that's also a big part of what TIE is all about. You have that experience, you immerse yourself in a completely different environment, you unlock your strengths, your weaknesses, what makes you tick, what gets you excited. But then the trick is, okay, what do you do with that? And, and it's showing what people, the power of seeing things in a different way, showing them then how, changing perspectives can impact your work. And then, how to then channel that into your work. And I guess what TIE is all about is inspiring participants to then use that drive and energy and new vision to make change and be a change maker at their company or a company that they might want to work at or in the world in general. And in order to channel that energy before and after TIE, coaching is a big part of that process. And as I say, you've also been a coach for TIE for a good number of years as well. We didn't start originally with coaching, but then very quickly we realized the importance of it. And I just wonder if maybe touching on this, over the years, you've had a number of conversations around change and leadership, and I just wonder what knowledge and insights, you can pass on to our listeners, especially now in a post-COVID world.
I think that the coaching is really, and it was interesting, I myself didn't come to coaching for a long time. I was a facilitator, and I get a lot of that feedback from the larger group. But actually, when I came to coaching and actually witnessed in that one-to-one situation how through individuals really reflecting on the impact for them is really, really profound. And COVID emphasizes that to me even more. The first thing I did when COVID struck was I was working on 2 different leadership programs and immediately contacted the range of individuals I was working with, really to get a sense of how they were managing that change. And it's interesting, I'm part of a network across Europe of coaches, and we check in with each other about every 2 or 3 weeks as a whole, a really, really large group. And it's interesting, we've been talking about the fact that individuals feel a victim at the moment. They can feel a victim of the situation. And through that, we blame the government or blame others, and because we feel insecure. And it's fascinating, actually, that the coaching to really help individuals come to terms with that, because if we're going to lead and support others, we have to invest in ourselves and really ensure that we look out for ourselves, so that day by day we're thinking, okay, how are we going to manage today? How am I staying physically and mentally well? So it's all very much part of that self-insight and building your own resilience so you can build the resilience in others. So I think coaching is even more significant and profound now than it's ever been because of COVID.
Yeah. And I mean, I just think from the point of view of the coaching for Thai, which is helping people prepare for this experience. And so kind of like you say, preparing yourself, reflecting on what's important to you, where your strengths lie, what you hope to get out of the experience, how you hope to shine, how you hope to bring these experiences back into your work. But then the second coaching on the back end is also, I think, so important, because it's about what did happen. Yes. How have you changed? How have you found your purpose? I mean, this is what I just find so, it's such an incredible process of really just unlocking people's just understanding, like you say, of themselves, but then their potential. And then so what do you think you can do with this? What is your purpose? What did you discover about yourselves? And just how you managed to do that on these and
I think that is so significant because of this thing of really being authentic to yourself and connecting with your own values. So that conscious leadership of really being you when you're doing that. And I love this aspect around the intrapreneurship, where you return into your workplace, but actually what difference do you make within your own organization, and how those new insights, both about yourself and about the global context, you can really enrich your day-to-day practice and also influence those around you. And that the space to reflect on that at a personal level really adds value to it.
Yeah. Oh, gosh. Now, listen, we're coming to the end of the podcast, but I did just want to ask you, tell me, I mean, you're so busy. Whenever I talk to you, you've got, I'm talking to the Isle of Wight and energy, sort of green energy wind farm company, and then you're talking to another. You're just talking to such a huge range of different people and companies and leaders, and you're just an incredibly interesting and interested person. Just keen to know what you're working on at the moment. Is there anything that I haven't asked you that, I don't know, you'd like to tell our listeners?
Just to give you a flavour of the things that I'm working on at the moment. This week, I've been facilitating workshops for a global conservation organisation who support leaders in different conservation organisations and who influence the delivery of that work, building leadership on the ground for conservation, which has been great. And then next week, I've got work with leaders across what we call the Northern Powerhouse, so the northern part of the UK, working with different leaders there. So I just feel so privileged, honestly. In my lovely room that I've got here in my garden, I feel like I'm in, what is it, when people have a camper van? I feel I'm in this camper van travelling around the world, but actually I'm stuck in the garden with no wheels on it.
In your garden.
Because I can open up the screen and then I'm speaking to you in Brazil and then somebody else in another part of the world or another part of the UK. So I feel just so privileged, and I've got that sort of fizzy feeling, and I hope to continue that, where I'm continually learning and challenging myself as well, really. So yeah, it's such a privilege.
Oh, well, you know what? I love working with you. I'm so excited. We're kicking off a new project, aren't we, on Monday? You're going to be kicking off our next Thai Advisor initiative with Paul and Shamim, working with Perul to they're coaches and executive search, founders of their own companies, and they're going to be helping Perul in India, the executive director and founder of an organization that works with children's rights in, working with slum children and tribal children and just stopping child labor. And anyway, Perul is amazing, and having these three powerhouses, so Perul in India and then these two individuals based in the UK, it's going to be exciting. So yes, you've got your training and coaching that's going to be kicking off. It's going to be a busy day.
I'm really looking forward to it. Yeah, they all sound very, very interesting. People with a passion, which is great.
Yeah, good. Well, listen, Janice, thank you for your time. It's always, I adore our conversations, which happen quite regularly at the moment. So thank you for everything that you do and for your passion and for your love of what you do, and just honestly being such an important member of our team. We couldn't do what we do without you. So thank you for everything.
Thank you. And thanks for your inspiration, Philippa.
Take care.
Bye.
Have a lovely rest of your day.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Hey everyone, this is Philippa again. So this is your chance to get involved with TIE. We have 3 absolutely amazing virtual opportunities available, all rooted in connecting the private sector with the social sector to make change. TIE has never been more necessary than right now. So if you're looking for life-changing leadership development opportunities for your employees and you want your company to impact the world, we've got you covered. If you're looking to step out of your comfort zone and use your skills to make a difference and keen to meet other like-minded professionals with similar values, then our TIE Accelerator program is for you. There are so many options, so I urge you to get in touch. Go to theinternationalexchange.co.uk for more information or just shoot us an email. Better companies, better leaders, better world.